So, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Euan Davis. I'm Scottish. I'm still British, and I hope I'm still European in a couple of weeks' time. So, welcome to this particular slot. Thank you. I love Europe. So, for those of you who don't know who Cognizant is, we're probably Europe's best-kept secret. You can see our logo up there, just on the edge, at the right there, Cognizant. We have roughly 12 billion in revenue. We grow at 15 to 17, 18% each year on that base. And we have about 230,000 employees. We're huge. And we're here in Germany. We've been in Germany for a long time. And I hope you see us more and more in your daily lives. So I actually run Cognizant's Center for the Future of Work. It's a tough gig. I didn't think I'd be running the future of work during an economic revolution, but there we are. It's my job to bring different ideas, different narratives, and different concepts to our clients and prospects. And you heard it yesterday. Everyone is talking about a revolution. They're absolutely right. It's a rocket ride. But the problem is, no one really knows what's going to happen. If you look at our politics, we're not quite sure how the European Union will work. We're not quite sure how governance is going to work over the next 5, 10, 20 years. If you look at how we live, work, and play, that's all definitely changing. And if you've got kids like I have, you can see the way they communicate is really rather scary, but also very intriguing as well. And economics, well, that's why we're here. But suffice to say, one of the big rules of today, and I really want you to get this, is more and more companies are competing on code. They're competing on the data or the information that surrounds everything. People, customers, processes, products, cars, cities, homes. Data is everywhere. And I would argue the winners are the ones that really know how to use that data. So last night, in the excellent end to the session, we saw Uber and Daimler and Kai ask that very cheeky question about valuations and how come Uber is valued quite so high. Well, I would argue Uber, like Apple, like Airbnb, like all those digital native companies, have figured out this. They compete on code. So if this is the new rules for the organization of the future, for the business of the future, and trust me, more and more legacy companies are beginning to get that. They really are moving in that direction. I can give you so many examples from the clients we talk to that are using these rules in their business. What does it mean for the organization? And I don't think we've heard too much about that over the last day and a half. What does it mean for people? What does it mean for your organization for the future? And this is what I decided to hang the company's reputation on, or really look to explore this year. I wanted to understand what the future of talent looks like. What does the organization of the future look like if we need to innovate quicker and quicker, faster and faster? Europe is starting to get there. You can feel the crackle in this room about how we need to innovate. So what I decided to do was really distill the major forces which are starting to tear our organizations apart, and they are starting to really tear our organizations apart, and think about a blueprint for the business of the future. So what I've tried to do is give a vision, really, of what the digital organization of the future needs to look like. So if you're really, really focused on driving innovation, how do you bring your people with you? How do you think about structure? How do you think about rewards? How do you think about the people that work in your business day in, day out, year in, year out? So there's some rules here that I'd like to give you, and this is going to be a rocket ride through this research, so hang tight. But I'm going to try and give you the really crisp vision, really, of how we see the world. So number one, it's all about the platform. We saw those presentations yesterday from Travis and from Dieter about how Uber and Daimler are beginning to move in this direction, but what they're doing is building platforms. Those platforms are software layers, and those software layers allow you to gather data. Now, more and more legacy companies are beginning to recognize where they need to build the platform. And those platforms are really useful because they allow you to link digital assets together, and they allow you to exchange information with third parties. So all those fintechs, all those startups that you saw, they link through APIs into the bank's core platform. This is exactly what is happening today with the connected car. And there's a massive battle on the interface. Who actually controls the interface into the car, controls the ticket, gets it. So, number one, platforms. Where's your platform? Which products are you building a platform around? Which processes are you building a platform around? Where do you want to begin? So that's the first force. Now, the second one, I think, is really relevant to where we are today, because these cities like Berlin, like London, like Paris, San Francisco, Beijing, around the world, they're starting to crackle with innovation. You're starting to see a wave of entrepreneurialism emerge in every single city, many cities around Europe and around the world. And we call them talent clusters. And the more successful companies, what they're doing is actually linking the platforms they have to these talent clusters. They're starting to use these talent clusters to take hot digital technologies and really innovate as quick as they can. What does that mean for the organization? How do you structure the organization so you can actually key into a talent cluster that might be here in Berlin, it might be in Detroit for the connected car, it might be in London for digital marketing, it might be in Finland for gaming, it might be security in Israel. How do you begin to rethink the organizational model around these talent clusters? Because that's where the smart money and the smart people are beginning to move. So, is your firm agile enough? And what I found in my research is many companies are starting to really rethink the organizational model from command and control into something much more fluid and connected, and they're beginning to co-locate teams in these talent clusters, like here in Berlin, in order to source some of those skills, some of those hot digital technologies at speed. Now, the third force, which I guess you all know is a little bit scary, it's the robot. Everyone's talking about robots. Personally, I think you should see them as software. They're software tools which are automating process work, they're algorithms, they're all the machine work. But what it means for your business is you're starting to see new workflows emerge, new process handoffs between what the machines and algorithms can do and what people can do. So it's up to us as businesses to start thinking through how those workflows and data flows move around the company. How you can actually give people the tools and the capabilities to take better decisions. How you can offload maybe some of the really rote, dull, dry process work and refocus people on the things that really do count when you're delivering a customer experience or customer engagement. So that's the third one. So you've got these three forces which are really changing your organization. And I have to say, I alluded to this before, but what we're seeing is the organizational model is beginning to break down. And that's quite scary if you've grown up with it, like I have, a child of the 80s. I knew what I was going to do at work. But I think what you're finding is we're moving into a different era. And winning companies are the ones which are really starting to break down some of those rigid command and control structures and building something a lot more fluid, a lot more intuitive, a lot more flatter. And we've written about this blueprint in this report because what we've actually said, you know what, it's not just about machines. People are absolutely critical to power innovation in this new age. So, right now, I would argue there's a great digital reorg beginning to happen. More and more companies are beginning to fragment. The central core, the head office, isn't as important as it once was. More companies are beginning to grow in the outposts where these talent clusters actually are. And I think Michael Porter's model, which we all know and love, that's starting to fail. That's starting to change and become something else. The way we call this at Cognizant is to start thinking about this new architecture for work. And I would argue, with the rise of machines, the rise of platforms, the rise of talent clusters, millennials, customers, it's all starting to lead to a new way of working and a new way of running our organizations. And we call it this new masterwork architecture. We talk about the way you take decisions, the places you are, how you actually drive innovation into process work, how you think about data and analytics, how you source skills, how you use gigs. All these things are starting to emerge into the organization of the future. So when we talk about connecting leaders to support the European digital ecosystem, I actually think leaders need to look at their own organizations and really ask themselves, is it fit for purpose? And the way I would like to describe it is you need to look at this in terms of the beautiful parliament building you have, the Reichstag, because in many ways the Reichstag really rejuvenates a grand old building with something beautiful on top. It was designed by a Brit, so I'm pretty happy about that. But let's just say, the old organizational model, don't junk it, don't junk the culture, don't think, it's all about digital, we need to throw everything out the window. No, what you need to do is think about what you have and really, really build it for the future. Start thinking through what structures, new mechanisms you need in order to build the organization of the future. Because let's face it, it really is about people, not just machines. So with that, I'll close and I'd like to say thank you very much. And if you'd like to read that report, please drop me a mail and I'll send it through to you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.